So what started out as an ironic little piece from Gonzo on his Hammers Chat forum channel the other day, then developed into some articles going out online that seemed to suggest that there could be a reunion between Nuno Espirito Santo and Adama Traoré, who obviously had a backstory at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, initially when I saw this, I have to be honest with you, I thought that this was some rather lazy journalism. I thought it was people that were just making a very obvious connection between a manager turning up at a new club and one of his former players, and putting two and two together and essentially making 36. However, the more I've dug into it and the more I've thought about it, the more I'm starting to think that possibly by the time the January transfer window winds around, we may potentially find ourselves in a situation where we are signing the former Wolverhampton Wanderers and Barcelona winger, who is currently at Fulham, and his contract is ending at the end of this season, as I understand it. So it could be that maybe there is a shrewd piece of business that when the January transfer window opens, Nuno goes in for the kill. But is this going to be the right move for West Ham United? You've got a comment section below. Get stuck into that. Also, please don't forget to drop a like on the stream. And if you've got one of your 3 hypes that's available this week, please feel free to donate it to this content. It really would get this out there to places. Otherwise, it might not reach. Please also consider sharing this onto your social media platforms. And last but by no means least, just check to see if you are subscribed to the channel. If you're not, please click your mouse, change that fact, and we will go on this journey together. And it won't cost you any money, and we don't get any of your data sensitive information. Last I looked, we was on 1753 subscribers. And as I say, please join us on this journey and let's see where it takes us. Thank you very much indeed for your support. So, Adama Traoré, now as I understand it, from certain stories that are out there, there is a whisper doing the rounds that effectively Adama Traoré is the reason why Nuno Espirito Santo finds himself as the West Ham United manager. Now, how do you ask, has that come about? Well, very simply, in the summer transfer window, Edu, the former Arsenal player and sporting director, director of football, whatever role you want to term him as, came in at the City Ground to operate as a sporting director there. Now, the story goes that Nuno Espirito Santo, in the summer just gone, was very keen to get Adama Traoré in on a transfer. However, it would appear that Edu said that that was not going to be something that would happen, which is what caused a little bit of the frostiness in the relationship between the then Nottingham Forest manager and their sporting director. And it would appear that Evangelos Marinakis took the side of Edu in this particular situation, which then caused the problem between Nuno and Marinakis himself. And that was never going to end well, let's be completely honest about it. So effectively, the non-transfer of Adama Traoré to the City Ground is what set in motion a sequence of events that resulted in our current manager being at the helm. Now, as I say, it should also be mentioned that Adama Traoré is actually out of contract at the end of this season. So if he is available for a transfer in the January transfer window, he wouldn't come at a king's ransom. He would actually be quite a good deal could possibly be arrived upon, because let's face it, it's Fulham's last opportunity to cash in on this player. Otherwise, he walks in the summer for nothing. So if you've got a club that's got a little bit of money and makes a good deal, it could work out for all parties. Now, I know that Gonzo is a West Ham fan that has a lot of admiration for this player. And back in the day, I did look at this player and wonder whether he could possibly be an asset to the club. Now, he's 29 years of age, so he's still got a few miles on the tank. He's still got a little bit to offer, but his career does appear to have stagnated a bit of late at Fulham. I don't know whether this would be a good move. I suppose one of the benefits could be that if we're going to go back to playing a Moyes type of football, the player that at the tip of our attacking moves was obviously Michail Antonio. Now, if there is one player that in all the years that I've been watching West Ham United under Moyes, that I thought who could be an effective replacement for Antonio if and when the time came that he and the club went their separate ways, probably there was a little case to say that one of those players that needs to come into consideration is Adama Traoré. He's powerful, he's quick, he's direct. However, I would suggest that when you look at his attacking output in terms of goals and assists, That's probably where the argument starts to fall apart a little bit. But then again, you have to consider that for the most of his career, he's basically been playing exclusively on the wing, and he's not really played as a forward. And could it be that maybe he could make the same transition from wing to striker with the same level of effectiveness as maybe Michail Antonio did, who was probably a similar age when he made that transition to the age that Adama Traoré is now, 29, there or thereabouts. I would imagine that Mickey was about that age when he made the move from the flank into the central position. But what do you think? Do you think that this is something that would be of benefit to West Ham? Do you think that this is even a feasible story? I now begin to think that this might actually have a little bit of credence to it. One other thing that needs to be mentioned is that part of the agreement between the club and the manager in terms of his remuneration package, in terms of length of contracts and all the rest of it, was that Nuno insisted, because of, I guess, what happened at the City Ground when Edu got parachuted in as the director of football, and it took away a lot of his power in terms of getting signings in that he would want. He's made it crystal clear to David Sullivan and hierarchy at the club that he is to be in charge of those matters. So if he turns around and says that he wants Adama Traoré and we've got the finances to do it, and as I say, I suspect he will come at a reasonable price because of the length of his contracts that's left, then I suspect that there may possibly be scope to get this deal done. Would he be as a right winger? Would he be as a striker? Would he be starting every week? I'm not sure he would be starting every week, truth be told. However, that is the one thing that I do question is we're sort of like looking as a winger. Would he get in ahead of Somerville at the moment? No. Would he get in ahead of Bowen at the moment? No. But I tell you what, if we played him as a striker ahead of Fulkrug and Wilson, do you know what? That's something that I think now possibly that could happen. That could possibly come to pass. But what do you think? You've got the comment section below. Talking of strikers, there's also been a connection of another one of Nuno's former players, Chris Wood. Now, Chris Wood, I think, is 33 years of age now. Again, is it lazy journalism? Is there something in it? It would appear that things at Nottingham Forest all is not well. Ange Postecoglou has gone in as Nuno's replacement and has got yet to register a win. I think he's played 6 games now. They obviously played at the City Ground in the Europa League in midweek. They lost by a scoreline of 3-2 to that European superpower from Denmark known as Midtjylland, or however they're called. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that there were fans of Nottingham Forest that were very open in their disdain for the former Tottenham Hotspur manager, and his managership is not really going down a bundle there. Now, if Chris Wood was available in the January transfer window, would I be interested in him? I have to say that I would be quite keen to get, and I know that he's 33 years of age. I know that there's no resale value. But when you look at his track record against Fulkrug and Wilson in the Premier League, first of all, in terms of output of goals and assists, and then in terms of his robustness, in terms of his availability, it's night and day. It really is. I also point to the fact I think he's got about 35 goals in his previous 2 Premier League seasons, and he's currently got, I don't know, 2 or 3, I think it is, whatever it is. He's off and running in the Premier League, and he's a player that I think, again, has got a little bit more left in the tank. I don't know what his current contract situation is. He might have another 2 years or so. The only thing I think that's going to scupper this possibly is there may be a change of manager again at the City Ground, and depending upon who comes in, it may well be that the new manager comes in and maybe decides to keep Chris Wood. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is. As I say, I think that if there's any sort of scope of any deal being done in January, then we should look to try and get it done. I know that in terms of resale value, it's not exactly a great deal. It's not like we're signing a player that's got scope to improve and when we could earn a little bit more money on it down the track. But I do definitely think that would he be a better bet than Wilson or Fulkrug. The thing is, I think though, if we go and get Chris Wood, it probably will mean the end of the West Ham career of Nicholas Fulkrug, because I can't see that he would have too much of a way into the starting 11. Wilson, I guess, possibly could move on, but the fact that he's just signed for free and he's on such a cheap contract, I think probably if there's anyone that the club would look to move on, it would probably be Fulkrug if I had to put money on it. But I don't know. We'll wait and see on that. But you've got 2 things to get stuck into there. Adama Traoré to West Ham United and obviously Chris Wood. These are two things that have been out there in the media in the last day or two. I'm just giving you my thoughts. I think Adama Traoré, there could be something in this. I really do. And that it could be that there is some business there that could be seen to be done. And maybe just a little bit out of left field, maybe he could be that replacement for Michail Antonio that we've been looking for some considerable time now. We'll wait and see. And Chris Wood, if he becomes available, if he doesn't become available, I guess a lot of it will hinge on the future of Ange Postecoglou at Nottingham Forest, I guess it's fair to say. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Would either one of them tickle your fancy? Or would you look to try and get both of them in? Or maybe neither? And if the answer to that is neither, then who would you possibly be looking to get in January that might be able to bolster our attacking ranks? Get your comments in the section below. And don't forget to drop a like on the stream. And if you've got one of your 3 hypes available this week, please consider donating it to this particular bit of content. Share this onto your social media platforms. And finally, check to see if you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're not, please click subscribe. It's completely free of charge. We don't get your data sensitive information. We just go on this journey together and see where it takes us. Thanks very much for watching. Stay safe. Come on, you irons.